Really?
Okay, we are starting, kind of.
Okay, welcome to Intentional Alchemy. And Nisha, we know that you are en route in travels and in our thoughts. I got your message a little while ago and didn't have time to reply, but we are definitely holding your intentions in the circle. So maybe we can read out what that is later.
Absolutely.
And Steve, you had a nice reflection already, so we can build on that.
Thank you.
Nancy has a quote to start us off.
Okay, so this is April 17th, 2018, and the quote for our day is, "There is no better deliverance from the world than through art, and a man can form no surer bond with it than through art." By Wolfgang Mozart.
Awesome.
Yeah, the way to escape it and the way to form a bond with it, which is a little bit similar to a Homer Simpson quote, which was about alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's little problems. Right? Take that as you will. Like, yeah, that's that kind of thinking. Okay. So anyway,
Great, John. In my portrait group that I'm in on Sundays, a lot of times we laugh because we're doing a portrait of someone, but someone will say, "Oh, it looks like this famous person," and mine at the beginning of Sunday looked like Homer Simpson.
Are these live portrait sessions?
Yes. Yeah, we have a portrait society, and the man that has brought it together and that runs it has what he calls honored guests, and they are women and men who have made a contribution to the arts in the greater Portland community. And so they're not professional models, but they sit for us for 2.5 hours.
Wow.
In 10-minute increments with lots of breaks in between. And we all draw them. So they keep the same pose. They just come back to it.
Wow.
That's pretty neat. I was part of a life drawing group a long time ago when my son was a baby, so that's my point of reference. But a friend of mine who was an artist, or a couple friends, that we really want to do this. Let's get a group. I had no idea. I'd never done anything like that. I said, sure. And so it was just a few of us women. We went to somebody's house and took turns every week. One would pose and everyone else would draw. And it was remarkable. I was impressed and surprised at both that I could pose nude for my female friends. That was fine. No problem with that. And that they all could pose for each other and us. And I mean, it was a private thing, you know. And that I could draw somewhat, you know. It was pretty good. That was a pleasant surprise. It was better than I thought it was going to turn out, the drawing anyway.
I just participated in something recently where it's called Figure It Out, that this friend of ours is a model and an artist, and he's done this show on television called Figure It Out that is, he posed live the first time. Yesterday was the second time the show was filmed. And there's another host that's doing commentary. And I was one of, I think, 5 or 7 artists that were drawing from the model. So the show is called Figure It Out, and it's figure drawing. But it's really kind of neat.
Huh. Interesting.
All kinds of interesting connections there. Well, I guess we can start our 5-minute check-ins. I can either go get my timer, which is just on the other side of the room, or if somebody has one and wants to be timekeeper. Okay, Steve, if you want to do it. Oh, do you want me to do like a little sort of grounding intro thing like we did? Okay.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I can do that. I'm ready for that too. All right.
My phone is being really slow.
That's all right. I'm still chewing, so take your time.
Okay, I'm ready. So, but yeah, do the grounding thing. That would be awesome.
All right. Settling into this moment. Everything becoming still in the space around us. Neglecting a stillness within that's always there, that we may not have realized we've been carrying with us all day. But we always carry with us our balancing center point. And now when we come to stillness, we become aware of this balancing still center point. And from a tiny notice of awareness, it grows, fills our minds, fills our bodies with stillness, releasing tension in our minds and bodies, releasing busyness for this moment, releasing past and future, just being calm and steady in this moment. And this steady, still point of balance grows and expands out beyond ourselves. We touch our energy fields. And Miche, we're aware of you as well in your travels. We become one energy field with one still balanced center point. And as our fields merge, we become stronger together, and we radiate this stillness out into the world, which so badly needs it today. And this is our gift of silence and stillness. It requires no effort. It simply is our pure, true nature. And all we have to let it do is just be what it is. And by sending this intention out into the world, we spark and touch other still points of balance and energy within other people, within the earth's energy field, within our other thought forms. And together, we create a beautiful web of light around the world that holds the struggling and suffering world in our light, in our love, naturally and divinely, simply because we are. We honor this divinity in every spark of life. And our prayer is that each divine spark of life awakens to true knowledge of itself in this moment. May it start with us. Thank you. So be it. Blessed be. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. That was beautiful.
Thanks for creating the space for that. I needed it too after a fun but busy morning. Here we are, stuffing my lunch and ready to go.
Good stuff.
Love that web of light visualization. That's just one of the best anchors energetically I always like to come back to. So, who wants to go first?
I'm kind of bursting.
You're bursting, Nancy? Well, then burst.
Okay. You got a lot going on, as we already began to discuss.
So the most exciting thing is that when I went to play pickleball this morning, I had some time sitting out, and where it's played is at this rec center, and they have a magazine rack, and I saw a magazine that just said Quilt Now.
Oh,
So
that's what you need.
So I picked it up, I'm rifling through it, and I found the teacher I need for the next step of my project, which is totally outrageous. You know, it's someone who says, literally, she says, I illustrate with the sewing machine.
Oh, wow.
So I've been talking about how do I applique the images and use that line as an illustrated line with the sewing machine. And that's what she does and what she teaches. She happens to be in England. So, so I looked at her website. I've sent her a note, you know, a message saying July 1 is a workshop in using your machine to illustrate on fabric.
Huh. Wow.
It's just a full day Saturday workshop. But I have a friend in England, and I don't know how far the two are from each other. She said she's in a place in the county of Kent that's outside of Canterbury, about 15 miles out of London. I know my friend, I've never been to her home, but I think she's in Surrey, which is south of London, a couple hours. So I have some investigating to do, and but I'd love to stay with her, or at least combine the visit if I stayed somewhere up near the hotel in this place. But I also asked the woman, Tracy Chapman is her name, which is funny because that's the name of a singer, Tracy Chapman.
Right.
Awesome.
But she says on her website, she says she'll work with people individually in their home on their machine. But I was like, well, would you have someone visit you and work on your machine? Because I'm not going to bring a machine from the US. But I was just so excited reading her website. She said the main thing is, I want to teach you how to be creative. Creative expression trumps technique, And she's self-taught, but she will teach you the practice. But and literally her work is nothing. It's not that I don't admire it, but it's nothing like my own or what I want to do. But it's the technique, which is the same as the woman that I recently studied with. It's her technique. I don't want to do portraits in quilting, but I want that glue technique. So I also set up a table at the right height so that I can work at home on, get started on some of what I'm working with. Because she already asked me, she said, how's it coming? I'm like, I haven't done anything more. I'm just trying to put pieces together. But the whole body of work, finding my voice, and that coincidence today, it feels so much like I'm in the flow, right where I'm supposed to be. So it's hard to keep up with the business end of my day job, because it's not that I'm not interested, but I'm so much more passionate about the art right now. That it even feels like it's part of my brother and we Skype regularly, and we're talking about developing a 5-year plan. And he was really asking me, is it realistic, Nancy, to think about retiring somewhere out of the States, being an expat? And he didn't mean it like, is it affordable or realistic? Is like, would you leave everything that you know? And I'm not sure, but it feels like that's all part of what's forming. So.
Wow.
That's cool. So I actually didn't start the timer.
I was wondering, because it felt like that was 5 minutes for sure.
We all ran out.
So I just spoke with a friend, was it this Saturday or last Saturday, who is now an expat in Mexico, who just moved there 6 months ago or so, and kind of going through that same, she was, 6 months ago, and things happened. Her husband got injured and sick, and so lots of medical bills, and they needed to move somewhere in order to save money and so forth, and et cetera. And you might actually, I don't know if you know her. Her name's Deborah Jensen. She's a coach, helps people with kind of more with mind work, mindset type stuff, and activity and so forth. But yeah, she's in Mexico now, which she wasn't expecting to do at all, but just things fell in place so that she ended up there.
I don't know her, Steve, but I'd like to. Can you put her name and info in the chat?
Yeah, of course. And I can introduce the two if you like.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Okay. We'll do that.
So can I take another minute and brag about my son for a second?
No.
So he was home over the weekend. There is a tangential piece of this that, like, I don't know where he's going to land as an adult. He's 21, turning 22 in June, and going into his last year, 5th year of college. So,
wow.
You know what, but right now he was home for the weekend and he was working on a resume for a part-time job for this summer. That's a remote support position from Colorado with a gaming company in Colorado. So their logo is 2 big green G's on a red background. My son did this animated intro that says, "My name is," and then it comes in from the other side, "Lucas Adair, and I want to work for," and then all the words spin in a vortex and come out to be the company logo.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty cool.
That is a really cool idea.
Cool.
Wow.
It was so fun to see that he could do that. And then I'm just really proud of what's on his resume and, you know, interest in work in artificial intelligence applications in media. I'm like, what? Like, I don't even know what that means.
Right.
So if I introduce you to, now I'm not going to like do this deal, but your son sounds like someone my younger son would appreciate. He's really into story. He reads a novel a day, basically. And when he's not reading novels or when he's not playing games, he's doing one of the two. And he's also doing things like, you know, reading magazines like Popular Science and, you know, following Neil Tyson deGrasse or whoever. And he's got a great mind.
Yeah.
He hasn't quite found his place in the world yet, but he's young. He'll turn 18 in June and be graduating. So anyway, that sounds cool.
You want your son and mine to be introduced? Is that?
I think that could be cool, yeah.
Yeah.
Although Joshua is a really interesting person, so I don't know how well that would how. He can be really great with people and he can be really horrible with people. So
my son's the same way.
So it's kind of a crapshoot, you know.
Yeah. And I love watching some of his best friends became like disconnected and then they come back together. Like just
Yeah, that's cool. Should I go next or?
Yeah. I just have to get up and turn heat on, but I can hear.
Okay. So my week in pictures.
Right. Not surprisingly.
So I think I've been talking about this idea for a while, just that, you know, we have 3 basic accounts, if you will. And that is, you know, being the creator of the content and the community. And I've just been spending more time realizing the relationship between each of those things. So a lot of the times, the way that we connect with people is actually through our content, right? I mean, think about all, you know, the people you might be connected to at work or in your community or wherever, as and online particularly, is that it's very much a bridge that goes through the content, right? I mean, I've got, I don't know, 1,400 Facebook connections or something, and most of them I've never met, in person. But it's through the work that I do that people get an idea of who I am. And just like what you were saying earlier, Nancy, about kind of your quilting and so forth, there's all these connections that happen through the content that you're doing. And, not only do we get to meet other people through the content, but we also have a relationship ourselves with our content, and then conversely, there's like a mirror relationship between our community and the content, right? The people who receive it or hang it on the wall or use it or, get blessed by it in some way. And so that's what I'm delving into is, how do you strengthen that relationship? And there's also two things that are going on. There's like the practical relationship, the kind of the bread and butter type side of the relationship where it's just, I don't know, kind of the logistics or the, you help people deal with, and you guys both do more, I don't know, more strictly healing type work, it seems, than I do. I mean, I talk a lot about business, which all too often is more just the practical side. Even I was looking at some articles yesterday and it was like totally, articles on emotions and, the emotional appeal in the work that in your marketing. And it was still totally, nuts and bolts type stuff. It wasn't, and it was just, it just seems so weird sometimes to me. But that we create stuff. And so one of the things I did this week was this inchworm in that, as I'm working on the content that I'm creating, I've got all these ideas, but it takes so much time to actually put it all together, for it to all work out and start making sense and being available to other people. And it's okay to be that inchworm. It's okay to, that it's okay to be patient and to take the time to make things work out. And the last thing is just this idea of integrating it all together, of, where your ideas and, come together with your heart and stuff. So it's like heart and mind. And that's like where the magic happens is when you can find the thing and your place in the world with the content, the community, yourself, everything. And it's like, this integrated wholeness that just feels really right. So I kind of lied and said that was the last thing. But one more thing about that is actually, I think I've come up with the title for my, the program and maybe even the podcast that I'm and the Facebook group, maybe. I've been throwing around a lot of ideas for things. And I wanted to touch along the idea of heart and mind, or that concept, that general idea. And another thing that when I reached out to a group of people in order to find out what they really wanted, a lot of people resonated with the word freedom. And so what I've come up with is the title "Right to Freedom." And right is WRITE rather than, but I like the play on words of RIGHT to freedom as well. So that's what I'm playing with and developing stuff around. How do you actually make all this stuff come together, so that you can actually create the life that you want to be living, your right to freedom, to be living the life in a way that feels really cool and all that. So that's all.
Nice.
So what do you guys?
I love the graphic of the light bulb with the pencil.
Yep.
And the heart. I think it's so strong. It's so simple, but it's so strong, and it really conveys a message.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What does it convey? What message do you get
That
from it?
whole interrelationship between the content and the creator and the ideas, you know, the only one not in that graphic really is the community, but you've got such a beautiful blend of those things that it makes me think of all three.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, I think the community is like the light rays radiating out, like our meditation. When we cultivate it in here, we can't help but radiate out whatever is inside. Or as Wayne Dyer said in one of his programs, when you squeeze an orange, what comes out? Orange juice. So it's whatever's in there is what's going to come out. I loved it because it took me a minute to see that it was a heart, because I think there's a little 3-dimensional like shading or something on it, just trying to see it through the computer, and you hold it up. So at first I thought, yeah, there's like a little light reflection or something. At first I thought maybe it was a flame, but I love the heart coming out of the pencil. To me, that says, that gives you permission for your heart to come out in your work. And the heart is the center thing in that graphic. It's beautiful. So I think that really conveys your really powerful sense of giving people permission. It's not just that you got to get this pencil scratching across the page and fill up your day.
Right.
You know, there's the pencil and the heart just like blossoming. It's like a flower. It's like the heart's blossoming out of the pencil stem, sort of. Yeah, beautiful.
Cool.
In fact, you know, you were kind of questioning, what is this? Is it a blog? Is it a program? Is it? And I'd love to see you use that graphic as the cover and Right to Freedom, you know, and just start playing with it, because it can be, I bet that it can be reduced quite small and carry well. It can be black and white. It can be full color like it is. I think you do some, as you're starting to put a file of those pictures together, I would just put that as the cover and see.
Yeah, thank you both for reflecting that and for that insight. Actually, that's kind of what I was thinking too, is it's really interesting. I'm sure, you know, when you're putting something together, it's like, what am I actually putting together? Because I didn't start out with, you know, all these things together in this way. I started out, well, just with the idea of heart and mind. And, you know, I started out with more literal stuff with a person's head and the mind. But I saw a site, what did I see? Anyway, things just, it's always fascinating to me how things just come together, because it's kind of like this serendipitous experience where it just falls into place.
Like Nancy said, being in the flow, it's great. Yeah.
And it feels like it multiplies on itself.
Right.
Listen to your intuition. Those messages come, you respond to them, and more come.
Right. Yeah. That's one thing that my daily soul scribble is, you know, proved out time and time again. You know, that, you know, it always turns out differently. I always see something different. And it's always, there's just so much more to us than what we tend to think we have access to. Because we don't. I think
that's really a core part of all of our mission. And Misha, you included for sure the spoon bending, like you can do this. The idea that once you start to feed that, it takes a while before you even really believe it yourself sometimes. It's like that's we're all trying to hold that space for people to get to that, aha, yes, this is natural. Yes, this is me. Yes, I can do it. I'm reading a book about Lilydale right now. That's a spiritualist community in New York. It's like the oldest one. It's like the center of spiritualism. It's hilarious. Just, I know we're in check-in, but just to diverge for a minute, because it kind of sheds light on what we're talking about. The author is a journalist. She worked for the Dallas Morning News, like straight ahead journalist. She covers religious topics, but from kind of she considers herself to be very objective, right? But this book is all about her journey of getting to know Lilydale and spiritualism. She comes from a born-again Christian background, kind of lost a lot of that with her education and objective work and reporting and stuff. But the journey that she takes as she learns about these kooky people, and are they all crazy, or are they just frauds, or is there something really going on here, or could it be all of the above, and what does this mean to me? The book is fascinating, and it's so much about that. Can I even believe myself? Can I even believe what I'm seeing? Or did I see that? No, I didn't see it. I knew I did, but now I'm not so, all of that, like the huge internal mountain that we have to climb to figure out what is my truth. And then when it changes, do I have to start all over again? I don't have a mountain. I don't know anything. Mm-hmm. Or as we mature spiritually and emotionally, can we say, well, that's all right. I'm still climbing. I'm just going to, adjust my course a bit. It's not like everything's wrong. Everything's, So it's a fascinating book. You might enjoy it.
Is it just called Lilydale, or what is it?
Lilydale, yeah. It's I read it in like 4 hours, and now I'm reading it with my husband. Yeah, it's fun, and it's full of just amazing, fun, interesting people's stories, which I just love to read about that. But especially people's stories with, is it spiritual? Is it psychic? Is it my mind? Is it my creativity? Can I believe myself? And the roles that people play for each other, whether they're professional coaches or professional healers, or like what we're doing or not, in community, as talking about the roles of community as well. When the content is so hard to define, how does the community hold that space? And anyway, just kind of seem relevant, but it's fun.
Is that Lilly?
1 L.
1 L?
Yeah, 2 words. I'll type it in.
Yeah, thanks. I was going to ask you if you would.
Lilydale by Christine Wicker. And she is, talk about self-talk. I mean, because of our conversations that we've had here, I think so much about that when I'm listening to people's narratives and stuff. She's so hard on herself.
Oh, really?
I'm in this class for mediums, and I don't believe the things that I'm telling people. And what am I, crazy? But they say they're right. And then even though people are validating what she's getting from spirit, she's like, it's crazy. I made it up. I just figured it out. I'm just, the lengths she goes to talk herself out of what she knows. It's incredible. And the back and forth. And now I believe it. And then I learned something else that wasn't what I expected it to be. Now I don't believe it. It's just very interesting. Anyway.
Do you remember when I told you both about the book I read by Michael Crichton called Travels?
Travels, okay.
Travel.
Yeah. I mean,
Travels by Michael Crichton. He's the man that wrote all
Jurassic Park and
Jurassic Park, and he wrote a book called Travels that was all about his travels exploring and investigating psychic research and psychic phenomenon. And then at the very end of the book, he says, "This is what I believed at the beginning. This is what I believe now. This is what I still no longer believe, don't believe." It was just a really great way of encapsulating it.
He's an MD too, right?
Yes. Yeah. What I love about his story is he was in medical school when he wrote Andromeda Strain. Became his first movie, and the LA directors asked him to come make a movie, and he asked for time out of his internship. And the medical school said no. So he left medical school to have a movie made of an Andromeda Strain. And then he went back because he wanted to be able to tell his father that he could.
Wow. So did he ever practice them?
No.
Interesting.
Never practiced medicine. He was writing in order to make his way through medical school.
Oh.
And I often think of it just the opposite way around. I'll do nursing or whatever to support my arts, but
right.
he was writing in order to pay his way through medical school. But the whole thing about medical school was to appease his dad.
Oh my God. So Steve, he did your right to freedom thing, right? That worked. You could use that as a story. See, people.
All right. Yeah. Michael Crichton. Yeah.
And maybe he didn't know he was doing it, which is back to what you were saying, Nancy, when you just accept those synchronicities that come along, it feeds more. He could have said to himself, no, this isn't what my linear path is. I'm not going to consider it, but it happened.
That is just amazing because, I mean, medical school, and especially if you're doing an internship, is just, I mean, it's freaking nuts. I mean, you work around the clock. I mean,
when do you have time to write?
Yeah. Although I've written 1.3 million words in the last 5 years
Wow.
in 15-minute increments, 15 minutes a day. So.
Well, this can kind of segue into my check-in because I've been wondering if I need some kind of a little writing practice like that, because where I'm behind now is in my new program, which according to no one cares but me, should have started on Sunday, right? So I'm not there yet. This is the time of the year when sometimes I get into a real low energy place, but like, I don't think of it as depression. I feel like this is my body catching up from the winter before the summer, or I'm getting downloads, or just as Nancy and I were discussing, it won't stop freezing rain, sleeting, snowing, and, icing up everything, and you don't want to go anywhere. So I feel like it's in sync with the seasons, even though that would probably be labeled some kind of syndrome if I went to a doctor and described it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't happen every year that I notice, but it manifests differently. One year, I was homeschooling my son, and he went to a homeschool camp for a week in April, which he used to do. And I thought, great, I'm going to have all this time. I'm going to do all these projects. And immediately, like the first day, I got sick. My body was like, you're doing none of those things. It wasn't like a horrible illness. It just was like my throat hurt, and then my nose started right. It just was worse and worse until I was like, I'm down. And that was it. That was my week. So, and then I know there have been at least 2 other years around this time, March and April, when I just didn't want to do anything but sleep, but I could get up and like go to work and do things. And then I would just go back to bed. And it's like this feeling of gravity, like you're just 1,000 pounds. And I'm like, all the ideas are there. I still love all my projects. I still want to do everything, but I just want to get under a blanket and read. That's it, So, so I really kind of dragged myself back to this work a little bit, being gentle with myself though. But on Sunday I worked on it. The website's almost ready to go. And then I started working on the guidebook, and, so my husband's illness set me back about a month in March. And so I haven't been able to catch up from that. So, but as far as the writing, like the thing that really takes a lot of time is the guidebooks. And I just want to do those. It's not that everyone is clamoring for them or I have to do it for any reason, but it feels important to me. And it's getting to be more of like a workbook like yours, Nancy, and less of like researched information, even though I still love doing that, right? This is what my couch looks like right now. See the pile of books? That's one of the piles. So those are just the etymological dictionaries that I'm using, right? I love it. And so it isn't that I don't want to do the work. It's just this energy thing. And then the time, because I now have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, totally busy days, basically. And some Friday, and who knows what. So it's just that tension between those, like, want to do it, don't want to do it, get to it, can't get to it. Do I need to do it? I feel like I do, that whole kind of thing just sort of swirling around. And so when I start to feel weaselly about it in my belly, I just give myself Reiki there, But what you're saying about the writing practice, maybe if I really just had, and I have to find the thing that feels right to me, or I won't be able to make myself do it. I won't.
Yeah.
But I was thinking of you the other day with the, like your daily blog thing and the soul scribbles and stuff. So maybe I can just set that intention to discover what is the right practice for me. If there is like a daily writing practice where I'm always just in touch with this work a bit and it's developing. Because I love to sit down for hours and write, but that's just not always going to happen, for whatever reason. So I can't wait till the last day and think I'm going to do it all. But that's how I went to school too. So I have this whole, you're late is the big message in the back of my mind. I can hear my mom saying you're late for school, and having, waiting till the last minute to do assignments that I really didn't care about anyway, or just, I'm better at going with the flow of like, wow, look, a thing, let's do that right now. But I love that I made this weird, crazy commitment that's not really like me to do this all year with the seasons of the year. And it feels right still. I like it. I knew that it was like a crazy kind of challenge to write a book every 6 weeks, but why not? That's the thing I'm called to do. And meanwhile, I'm loving this. Oh, and I have a new Reiki client tomorrow, so hopefully I can offer him this package. So that's good. That helps financially. And I'm having a great time going to the old folks home. And another Reiki practitioner, really good friend of mine, went with me today. She's part of my team. It's awesome. She's a farmer and a mom with a small child and a couple of stepchildren. So for her to, like I was telling Nancy, she doesn't have the opportunity to create her own healing arts practice right now. So she loves that she can just jump in with me and help with this. And she's awesome with the elders. She's just so sweet and patient. And I think that's my timer. So we gave 10 people Reiki today and the cat.
And the cat.
Yeah, the cat lives at the home with them.
That is awesome.
Yeah, almost everybody in the room got Reiki. It was a smaller group this week. I don't know, some people maybe had appointments or whatever, but yeah, it was really great. So many people opened up to it and were like happy to have us try it. And everyone really participated in discussion and they love it. They're like, we are so grateful that you come. And so, yeah, that's just like an incredible gift from this very difficult thing that happened with my other partner. Now I'm back with this other person that I knew. I was like, I totally know I could call on her. She'll be great, Her name is Adriana. And she is so grateful. She's like, this is a wonderful opportunity for her. She's getting paid. She worked on my mom while I was working on other people.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, there's somebody who can't walk, and I didn't even know that. I just like worked on his upper body. And, a woman whose hands are like all really gnarled, and she just like pulled out her hand. She's like, can you work on this? I was like, sure. Just give me one, Yeah, people are so incredibly appreciative. I'm really grateful. They're not like freaked out like this is some weird voodoo thing. We'll do that later if they want to.
That is really cool.
Yeah. So there's still a couple that are like, no, that's okay. But that's fine. That's great. One of the greatest gifts of Reiki is you can say no. I'm not a doctor coming into your hospital room telling you you have to do this, or a nurse coming in, I have to poke you.
Right.
Like, you get to say no. So it's great.
That's really cool.
Yeah, they appreciated it. So that's going well. That's like the easiest thing.
That's excellent.
For me, yeah, this nonprofit piece just makes everything make sense to me. It just makes the balance all right. And it doesn't make me not want to see clients or try to make money through my business or anything, but it feels like a really important piece that I've left alone for a few years and kind of came back to, and now from a different, viewpoint. So.
That's excellent. So this might sound like a real tangent, but what you're saying, the image that you've got in your background of the tree and the roots.
Yep.
So that was an image that I've actually had in mind this week without having an image to reference.
That's the yin yang tree, and it's part of a series by my father. He did a bunch of prints.
Oh, really?
Of various variations on that. Yeah, there's that one, and then there's a series. There's a bunch of them that have that, or just the top of it with snow fences. He had a real thing for snow fences in his landscape painting. For some reason, this was a thing that caught his attention.
Wow.
So he did, and some of the yin yang trees, the top has a yellow sun behind it. They're like these different variations on the series. But that's like the classic one. And I mean, that's why it's there. It's like, and I have a bunch more of these prints, and the family kind of doesn't know what to do with his artwork because he wasn't such a famous artist that like we're all going to retire on selling one of his paintings.
Same with my dad. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're so precious to us because he's our dad, and we don't want to just like give them away because they take up space.
Right.
So very special people that we know like get married or move into a house or something, they'll sometimes get, like, if they're very special, they will sometimes get one of these.
Wow.
So that's interesting that you had that image in your head, Steve. I've kind of been thinking I want to use part of it as my integrated community resilience logo too, which do I have it handy? I don't know. But the I in the integrated, I want it to be like that, but with more trunk but a little bit of roots and branches to show that the integration, above and below, but more like an I. And I haven't been able to come up with a really good clip art or free Google image of it yet.
You know, one of the things that image does for me is I remember learning not all trees, but a lot of trees, the roots are as abundant as the branches, you know, and they're often in equal proportion. And I remember when I was just 16 years old and I was on a boat in a fjord in Norway. And we were actually going from one ferry boat to another across a plank, and the captain was standing on the plank, you know, just helping people along. And he stopped me in the middle and he said, "Look up." And he said, "These fjords are as deep as those mountains are high."
Wow.
Wow.
And I never forgot it. It feels like the people I'm most attracted to live their life that way, you know.
And hence your book, you know, the Himalayas, you know, climbing Mount Everest or whatever.
Yeah.
So so what that does for me is it actually goes along with the content community creator thing, in that you are the trunk of the tree, right? So the creator, and the community is actually one of the things that I have been thinking is that you've got like your support group, like, you know, this group is for me and hopefully for all of us, you know, in that it's kind of the roots, in that it, you know, it strengthens us and it's where we get our strength from. And it can also be, you know, your kind of JV partner type stuff or whatever. But, and then there's like the people who are your followers, the people that you are enriching through your work, and that's more the branches side of it. And one of the reasons that content like really resonates for me is, one, because it's, again, your body of work. But when you're creating your content, just like you were saying, Dawn, about, you know, maybe starting a practice with, you know, having a daily, whatever, however it looks, with creating this content for your program, is that well, here's a good example. So I took this photo a week or so ago of this oak tree, right? Can you see it okay?
A minute ago I could, but now it's kind of dark. Maybe if you just turn. I don't know.
Let me do so there.
Oh yeah.
So you can see the people like down here, they're like barely, I mean, they don't even compare to it.
Yeah.
And around at the bottom of this oak tree are all these shattered acorns, but they're like little dingy things, right? So this massive tree started from this little bitty acorn, you know, and you know, it didn't happen like overnight. It wasn't like, okay, you know, the acorn gets planted, germinates, and the next thing you know, you've got a 150-foot tall tree. It happens little by little. And the same thing with, you know, creating our work, whether that be, you know, a painting or a quilt or a book or whatever, but by making regular deposits into that content account, you know, it grows and it develops and, you know, becomes this really amazing thing. As long as we have the intention, talk about intentional alchemy, you know, of making that thing happen, of making it real. And it's by giving value to our work that our work becomes manifest, right? Becomes something that's, you know, tangible or available to us. But we have to have the courage to do that. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't, you know, what I have to say, you know, isn't very valuable, or I don't really have anything to, you know, say about this or whatever. Or, you know, it's like, even as I've started to focus more on content and writing, it's like I started out, well, I don't know if I have much to say about that, you know. But by focusing and doing it in the different ways that I do it, you know, whether that's recording my thoughts on my phone or, you know, writing, doing my morning pages type thing, or drawing out different things in order to develop ideas. But it all develops. It continues to become something more significant by investing time into it.
Yep. So here's what I've been reading. Can you see that?
The law of emergence. Oh, wow.
The acorn
Yeah.
with the oak tree. Yeah. So that's like the metaphor for the whole book. Exactly what you just described, down to the broken acorn shell. You know, that an acorn can try to become a better acorn, but that's not the point.
Right.
The point of the acorn is to stop being an acorn and become an oak tree.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Huge. So what he's talking about in this book, Derek Rydall, is that we have our brilliance inside us, and we just need to let it emerge. We don't need to try hard to manifest things outside ourselves. We don't need to constantly improve ourselves and stuff like that. It's pretty neat. And speaking of roots and branches, one of the things he says in here is about a bamboo tree. I don't know if you know how a bamboo tree grows.
Yeah.
You water it for 5 years before anything that happens. And then all of a sudden in 6 months, it grows up to 90 feet because it's been working on this root system all that time. So, yeah.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
So,
yeah, I've been using that kind of analogy in the back of my mind as I take 5 years to, get something going. It's actually kind of what my soul scribbles have been doing lately. So like yesterday, I don't know if you guys can see it in there, but it's like this mountain and there's like river down at the bottom of it. And it was, what did I write? So heart's content, right way to freedom was the prompt. And, just the idea of this mountain and this journey, this trek of getting to this mountain and scaling the mountain and so forth. And it can look like totally intimidating. How the freak am I going to get, it just looks bewildering. But by taking, one step after the next, you get there. And it doesn't have to happen overnight. Which was the hardest lesson for me to learn.
Yeah. But you got to validate your progress and keep going, learn to have that faith in ourselves, I guess.
I really wanted to tell you, Donna, how lovely it was to hear you talk about this other Reiki practitioner and your joy in being able to pay her well.
Oh, yeah.
I really appreciate that. That's just...
Oh, good. Good. Yeah. I kind of find it almost enjoyably subversive. Because in the nonprofit world, and women and healers, we're supposed to want to always give it away.
Yeah.
Right. And the burnout is incredible. And it's our own self-oppression in the end. It becomes not generosity, but depriving everyone of everything, Yeah. So yeah, I enjoy that, that little odd sort of twist of putting these things together, I really...
One of my favorite, it's very long. To me, it's not affirmations, but it's an affirmation written by Louise Hay. It's page long in lots of different segments. That's just called I Love Myself, Therefore. And one of the segments reads something along the lines of, I love myself, therefore I work at a job that uses my innate and unique capabilities, working for people I love who love me and making a good income.
Is it from this book?
You know what? I just read it by itself online. Okay. It's called I Love Myself, Therefore Affirmation by Louise Hay.
Because she has lots of these. This is one of, I read this book decades ago, and it's amazing. She has lots of these like sort of longish whole page affirmations, in the infinity of life where I am, all is perfect, whole, and complete, and yet life is ever changing. And then there are different ones about relationships and work and all that. Yeah. So that's why I wondered if it was from this. It sounds a little bit different, but beautiful. Anyway.
That's cool.
Yeah. Overcoming that internal self-talk of not paying ourselves and not wanting to try to get the most out of other people for the least amount of money. Business doesn't have to be like that either. You know, when I hear, and it's an old New England thing partly. You hear people around here like, why do we have to pay all these taxes? The road crew should be saving more money on, not buying new equipment or whatever. The oldsters around here will always say that. We never need a new truck, right, compared to them. Or according to them, why are they wasting all that gravel? In the old days, people just didn't go anywhere when it was mud season or whatever. And so I get hay from a guy who's kind of like this, right? Remembers before the roads were paved. He seems to remember things for hundreds of years. I don't know if it's
I remember when Irving Stone, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, Rip Van Winkle or whatever, right?
Right, yeah. What is it?
Yeah. But it's this attitude of like, well, why should we have to pay all these taxes? And so I try to not disagree with him, but say something like, I really like to believe that we can all become prosperous enough that it's easy for us to pay enough taxes to help support the roads, because it's true. It is hard for people to afford some things. And this is, I don't know if our Vermont governor has promised to not raise any taxes or fees. And that was one of the things he was elected on, because everyone's in this poverty mindset. And this kind of relates to all of our business stuff too, of like, we don't want to have to pay taxes because we can't. And then the thought process stops there instead of going, wait a minute, why don't I even make enough that I can contribute to taxes to have good roads and good schools and everything else? Why instead do people feel like I don't want to have to pay taxes?
Well, I love like Warren Buffett is like, friggin' tax me more.
Really? That's cool.
He totally. In the last election, he was like, this is stupid. I'm worth $65 billion.
Right.
And I pay less taxes than you guys do.
Well, that's a good point too. Instead of saying, I can't afford the taxes on my, family's farm of 100 acres or whatever, which is true for a lot of people here. It's called land rich, cash poor. And instead of going, well, why can't I afford to pay taxes to have good roads around here or good schools? Like, exactly. If 10 of the richest people would pay what they truly fairly owe, none of the rest of us would have to worry about it. So anyway. Yeah, as all of us trying to run businesses, it's like hard to get your mind around some of this stuff, like all these crazy different ways of looking at money,
Well, yeah, it is it's just a different perspective. I mean, Robert Kiyosaki, the rich dad, poor dad guy, says the same thing. It's like, I don't want to have to worry about paying taxes. I want to make enough money that, I don't care how much taxes I have to pay, and I wonder, and maybe you guys know more than I do, but I hear about, how much higher taxes are in Canada, but yet I don't hear anybody. I mean, they might complain about taxes, but I don't see anybody rushing from Canada down to the United States so they can pay less taxes.
Every place that has more socialized services, the people pay for them and the people benefit from them. It's basically simple. All the Nordic countries, they have education, they have childcare, women have more rights. Sure, they're happy to pay their taxes. They have jobs. They're educated. They're cared for. That's the idea. So Canada does a little bit, but not as much. Yeah. No, I don't see any. Well, that's not true. I was going to say I don't see anybody rushing to the United States, but look at how many people they're supposedly trying to keep out that want to be here. But that's a whole nother story. Canadians, not so much.
Dawn, I did want, I don't know if it really fits in around the current conversation, but I wanted to say before about your need to write a book every 6 weeks. I was thinking back to work that I did with Jeff Herring, who was really a proponent of create it as you sell it. Sell the process of creating. So you get other people involved in like what's that called when you
crowdsource?
No, not a crowdsourcing, but when you're exploring a topic like a trial group or
beta,
the beta group, yeah. And give them a discount on your program for being part of the beta group, and then throw out some ideas, or not have it all finished and beautified the way you want it done, but have it like outlined, and that they fill it in and give you feedback, and they're getting it at $57 rather than $297 because they're part of a beta group and they feel just terrific being there, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's really, so one of the reasons I drew this out the way that it is, I don't know which came first actually, but the way it used to be is that we would create content, right? You know, in our silos, in our cabins and whatever. And then we'd take it out to the community and see, you know, if anybody bid on it or whatever, you know, whether it sold or not. But the way we have things now with social media and everything, we can be involved with our community the whole time, you know? And I think I've said this before. I mean, half the time when I'm posting stuff on Facebook, it's just to get people's reaction and to see what their thoughts are on a subject so that I can integrate it into what I'm writing or producing or whatever, you know. And I think I just think that is just so much more valuable. One, I mean, I'm fairly confident in my thought process. I mean, I know how to think out through a problem and, you know, and figure out solutions and so forth. But I don't have, some of my best ideas have come because I've thrown something out there, gotten a different response than what I expected, and like, oh, okay, maybe it doesn't have to be like that. You know, like the whole problem possibility thing, right? You know, you listen to 99% of the marketers out there, and all they're talking about is solve a problem, solve a problem, solve a problem. I throw that out there, and, you know, and some of the people are like, I don't want to solve a problem. I don't want to deal with people's problems. I want to deal with, and they didn't necessarily use these words, but I want to create a possibility. You know, I want to do something above the line, not below the line, right?
Yeah, I saw a client for the second time yesterday, and she's very young, and she said to me, she said, because I mentioned something about working till 9 o'clock at night, and she said, you literally listen to people's problems all day, every day. That's what you do, you know? And I was thinking about, you know, I said yes, but I was thinking about it afterward. I was like, that isn't it for me. I'm dreaming with people all day, every day. I'm not looking just at solving problems. I'm really being not where people are, but where they dream of being. You know?
Wow.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's not just tell me all how horrible it is and I'll just commiserate with you. But it's funny, a little while ago, I was thinking when we were talking about helping people validate themselves, whether it's their, you know, psychic experiences or their creativity in art or whatever it is, that's kind of a problem that we are trying to solve for people. Is it's kind of a confidence thing, and it's all kind of a faith thing also, and it's also a thing about beliefs, like the Michael Crichton, here's what I did believe, or the Lily Dale author, here's what I believed. Now I'm not sure, you know. And her stories of all the people throughout the book, some frauds definitely were uncovered, just like in any other, you know, professional practice. There are going to be some people who are not what they appear to be, but that doesn't mean that no one is. But all those things can make us doubt ourselves. So I think that the self-validation, like Nancy, what you work with, changing the negative self-talk, you know, into positive and stuff. So that is kind of a problem that we're solving for people, even though we're not focused on the problem and here's what's wrong with you. It's really more of a way of saying, this isn't you. Right. It's not an original problem that you have because you're you. And it's probably not even a problem you may realize you have, that you could have permission to explore these other beliefs or have your faith shaken, but then still move forward, or trust your other senses or your senses and creativity in a way you didn't know that you're even not doing. It's hard to articulate that, but that's kind of the fun part, trying to connect with people around that. And when you get there, they light up. They're like, oh yeah. And they didn't know they were looking for it. So how do you market to that, right?
Yeah.
So it's getting close to 2.
Oh, is it really already? Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, we have a better handle on the affirmation part of marking our intentions.
What was that about?
Do either of you have a better handle on the kind of material that Michelle sent to how to affirm the intentions?
Not really. I mean, although I've I like what we've been doing. And maybe when Miche is able to hopefully rejoin us next time, she might be able
Help
to
us
guide
tweak it a
us.
little. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to try to bring hers up.
Yeah.
She had posted.
$2,000 in the bank. Finish the two projects, the art, metal,
The jewelry
projects, and there was one more.
Finish,
Here, I can grab it. It's just being slow.
So I'll read it.
Do you have it? Okay, great.
So Miche says, would you hold intention / see for me a focused and productive week, getting the last 2 jewelry jobs completing setup of Mighty Network Spoonbenders net, more on that later, and $2,000 or more in my bank account by the end of the week.
Okay, so for Miche, we see you, Miche, creating abundance that will be $2,000 or more in your bank account by the end of the week. And you'll achieve that by completing the couple of jewelry jobs you have and feeling like you're back into production mode with getting the spoon bending program up and running.
So I kind of already shared mine, but I see Miche, you getting what you are seeing here, the jewelry jobs completed, the Mighty Spoonbenders being worked out, the $2,000 in your bank account, and really all this coming together in a cohesive whole. In that, being with your mom actually strengthens, validates, and empowers you to get the other things done, so that you have a synergistic experience.
Nice.
2 + 2 is more than 4.
That's right. So so kind of zooming in, Miche, I see you accomplishing these intentions and these goals and objectives. And I also see you enjoying the journey along the way, that the way that they manifest for you holds unexpected blessings. Maybe that unfold some of them in the future as well as right now, but that you enjoy the journey and benefit from it, accomplishing each one of these things too.
Beautiful.
Who wants to go next with an intention?
I'll come back to my intention. First and primary, I just want to connect the dots as they show up. Really going with the flow, responding fully. And I'd also this week like to confirm plans for travel plans. And something I didn't even talk about, but I'm working on a workbook for a speaking engagement, and I just want to have that completed this week. So I'll have it to show you next week.
That's
nice.
Great.
Shall I go?
Well, I guess we can reflect.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Right. I'm asking myself, do these seem like 3 really different things, or are they sort of all connected? Connecting the dots as they show up and going with the flow. Well, that does, connect everything. I like that, connecting the dots. Confirming your travel plans, so I'll affirm that, but also what you were saying before when we were talking, when Steve was picking up his daughter, whatever you were doing, going to school or something, about like having reservations is a funny word, travel reservations, but a little nervousness about plans and about logistics and about like it all working out. But what you said was, I've worked through things like this before. I've solved problems like this before. I've made it through problems like this in the past. So I think that was a gold nugget right there. That's the key, because you do not know that everything's going to go smoothly. Hopefully it will. Sometimes it does. But the fact that you know that even though it will be a different thing, a new thing, you are the person who has survived those things in the past. And so you have that confidence. So I want to reflect that, amplify that back to you. That's powerful. And the workbook, that's an awesome thing. I look forward to hearing more about that for speaking engagement. So we'll let that be a happy little mystery until next week, but we'll open it together.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the sense that I got, Nancy, while you were sharing was one that you were traveling and enjoying your travels and the growth experiences that you're having, but that you're also traveling for other people, that others travel with you, whether that be literally or figuratively, but that you bring the world a little bit closer by going out into it. And that, that we all benefit from that, collectively, universally. And that at all these adventures that you're embarking upon, the workbook that you're putting together, the quilts that you're doing, the comforters that you're creating, the travel, and the going to Ecuador, and all these different things really become a really rich tapestry for you in your life and in the lives of those you serve, which will be greater than what you imagine. So
Thank you. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
You want to go next, Steve?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So everything is coming together for me. It's really interesting, Dawn, the different visual connections. That book cover that you shared is actually another soul scribble / illustration that I came across this week, in which I realized there's like this really tight seed where everything is just, like really tightly bound. And then something happens, emotions burst forth in a way that, something grows up out of it and, becomes an oak tree or whatever it may be. And it just feels magical, and it just feels, holistic, organic. There is some stress in the breaking forth out of that seed, but that it doesn't feel like stress. It feels like growth type stress rather than death type stress. And things are just coming together. I'm able to, get my program written out. All my ideas are coming together and into a cohesive and beneficial whole. And my own workbook starts to take shape for what I'm doing and offering to other people.
So that's your intention for this week, for things to be coming together in form like that?
Right.
And I see that happening for you, Steve, in a very organic, cohesive, beneficial way. Not just benefiting you, but benefiting all of us and the greater community.
Yeah, definitely. And I sense you talking about it now, but I affirm that for the coming week too, that it's comfortable for you and joyful and feels rewarding to you, as these things are coming together. There's the excitement of inspiration, but then there's also like that kind of comfortable steadiness of things settling into place as well.
Mm, thank you.
Yeah.
So one thing I didn't say, but would be lovely. I've been dealing with some insomnia lately. And it's kind of, so when I was like really depressed, I also dealt with like massive insomnia, but it was like the other kind of stress. And now it's actually a positive type of stress in that, you know, things are bursting forth and, you know, I've got more ideas than I can know what to do with. And it gets me up at 2:00 and then I stay up until, I think I was up from 2 to almost 5 this morning. You know, that the organic cohesiveness that I'm able to sleep through the night.
Do you feel tired during the day from it, or do you feel okay?
I generally feel okay because I'm blessed to be able to have my life set up in a way that, you know, I can get the sleep that I need. You know, when I went to bed at, I don't know, 9:00 or something last night, so I got, you know, 5 hours of sleep before, you know, I woke up. And then, you know, I was able to sleep a couple more hours after, you know, going back to bed at 5:30 or whatever. So, and I take naps when I need to and so forth. It's, I've been pretty intentional in making sure that my sleep gets taken care of, regardless of how well my night goes.
You know,
Well,
and I think that's one of the things about really honoring your own process, rather than say it's insomnia or some problem again, but more that it's the way you operate. And, you know, I would understand if there's some nervousness about, is this mania, which my energies won't allow me to sleep consistently through 7 or 8 hours. I'd rather affirm for you, Steve, that it is, you know, it is God's wake-up call at 2:00 in the morning, and capture the organicity of the ideas that are coming forth then. And as long as you're doing what you're doing, you know, with meditation is equal to, you know, it's double equal to the amount we sleep. Like if you meditate for an hour, it's worth 2 hours of sleep. You know, and taking naps or taking the time that you need to recharge your body and your batteries. I would like to affirm that you just care for yourself in a way that allows that. You know, I was thinking about Emanuel Swedenborg, you know, who was said to be one of the first spiritualists in the spiritualist movement. But he kept a diary that was unheard of, a journal at that time in history of dreams. And it would often be like April 17, X 18, because he was writing about his dreams during the middle of the night. So I just think it's really honoring that that's your process, Steve, rather than a problem.
Yeah, me too. I guess that was part of what was behind my question, is like, is it really a problem? Society tells us you're supposed to be awake when it's light and asleep when it's dark. And, you know, the issue I have with that partly is that just doesn't work for some people. But the other issue is that we have a lot of states of consciousness besides awake and asleep. Like you're saying, Nancy, meditation is its own renewal, its own nourishment, its own kind of refreshment. And I find that with Reiki too. If I'm like dragging in the afternoon, I'll just like, do it, you know. It's just 5 minutes on my crown chakra, or just, you know, back in front of my head, or a couple of 5 or 10 minutes. I can be like, hello, I am ready to go. You know, it's amazing. Meditation, your walks, like, so all of the soul scribbles and everything, all those positive things you're doing are nourishing all those different levels of consciousness, including waking and sleeping, but so many beautiful nuanced. I mean, maybe that's something that's speaking to you, to to help recognize in yourself those different levels of consciousness. Being awake at night is a little bit from being awake, different from being awake during the day. I find, different things come into my mind when I'm just waking up or whatever. So maybe you're having an experience that'll give you great insight into these things that can help other people.
Well, it's been really rewarding. I mean, the thing that I miss generally when I sleep, I am like a rock. My bed could flip over and I'd still be asleep. And so for it to be, and when I'm awake, I'm awake. And so, 2:00 hits and, I'm not kind of awake. I am awake. And I don't know, but I've also having some really awesome experiences, in those middle of the night awake times. So.
It reminds me of something a friend who's an acupuncturist said. In Chinese medicine, each 2 hours of the day is ruled by like a different organ, a different kind of archetype. They're like all these, there's a system of correspondences. And in the middle of the night, there's one that's the emperor and one that's the general. And so it kind of makes sense because I was waking up like that at this time when I was talking to her, like at 3 a.m. or whatever. And whichever one it was, she's like, oh, that's the general. You're working on strategy. So we must do this when we're sleeping. You're waking up because like the general or the emperor has something to say to you. It's just,
Well, the interesting thing too is when I have been sleeping, I've been dreaming and remembering my dreams, which I don't ever.
Interesting.
I've never done before. At least, I can remember, a dream, I don't know, maybe every 6 months or a year or something.
Wow.
But like this last week, it's been, other than last night, and maybe a couple other nights, but it's been much more frequent.
Well,
I don't know. Maybe I'm just having different states of consciousness that, be open to.
You might want to write down those dreams.
Oh, I do. As I was selling to someone else, I've always got my clipboard and my pen available.
Yep. Absolutely. That's cool. Neat. Well, I guess I'll say my intention for this week is, as it was last week, to create this Loving Ourselves in Our World program. To finish that, whatever that means for right now, and launch that. And for the integrated community resilience, just to continue to grow. I guess I've been feeling like I'm discharging a lot of energy lately, anxious energy, whether it's mine or not mine. So I guess just to hold the space to remember that's just energy. It doesn't necessarily match any of the messages in my head about what I should be doing differently or what I think is wrong about someone else or any of those things. Just working with a lot of energy. That's what's making me so tired. So my intentions feel like low key, not to put a bunch of goals and expectations on myself this week. Just to kind of, like you said, Nancy, go with the flow. I have a new Reiki client tomorrow, so that's awesome. Get paid for the first time from this nonprofit work. So I guess those are the main 3 things to finish the program.
First of all, I want to celebrate the fact that you're getting paid for, that things are coming together, and that's super cool.
And to have a new full price client at the same time call me out of the blue because he saw my information posted at the office of an acupuncturist where I occasionally have practiced Reiki out of there, and I just have my information hung up there. He said, I'm looking for Reiki, and so it turned out to be perfect.
Awesome.
So that was a nice affirmation. So new client. And then my other most recent new client, the librarian that I used to work with, she's like an almost not quite full paying client, but that's okay. I'm happy to see her every other week or so. Hopefully she'll keep coming. And yeah, and then just the nonprofit work to keep it well. So I'm going to build on that this Friday by meeting with some of the staff and doing just a smaller group with them.
Mm.
And I'm not sure if that'll be with Adriana or not. So yeah, just to keep that steadily growing, like you're saying, Steve, the pieces coming together. It's like, all right, I'm so happy now that we've crossed that threshold. I've done the first program, and I've brought Adriana in, and it feels like it's really, happening and going. So just to keep gently nurturing that. I'm not asking for fireworks.
That is just so cool. I'm really happy to hear that.
So I see you, Dawn, effortlessly going with the flow this week. And the way it matches with the seasons. Because it really is natural, the natural order of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks.
So Dawn, I see for you a recognition that you are creating the work that you are creating, that just like the roots in your picture behind you, they're sinking deep, and you are building this next phase of your seasons of magic. I'm not and the book, and that it's just a matter of it emerging and appearing, and that you find the mechanism, the process that honors you and your gifts and the work that you're doing, so that it feels right.
Yeah, that's a specific intention I said earlier that that I forgot to name right here is the intention of establishing that regular writing practice or whatever it is. So it's partly shoring up systems, which includes also making a budget for our household. So it's not like, can we pay the mortgage this week? Do we need to wait till Friday? That's a point of stress that could be removed by a little bit of logistical work. I used to keep a budget every single day to the penny. I know I can do it, so that's one. So yeah, like the daily writing practice, like some of the structure-y kind of stuff that can hold space for that spontaneous and downtime. And yeah, so that's part of my intention. Thanks for reminding me of that. And without having to feel like I have to pour a ton of energy into it, just that like light touch. So
yeah.
So thank you.
So for me, it's more about capturing than it is about, because the energy is already there, I think, and it's just, how do you channel or funnel or accept or whatever it is. Allow, yeah. So that it doesn't feel like stress. It feels open.
Cool.
Dawn, I have a request, may fit, may not, but I was thinking about closure for today. Is it possible to read an affirmation, like just open and find one in that Louise Hay book?
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking of actually. I've got it right here. I had my foot on it.
Hey, can I?
Yeah.
So this is totally off topic, but Nancy, that color looks really good on you.
The color? Oh, thank you. I just came from playing pickleball, so it's my jacket.
It's a really good color for you. I think you were wearing something similar to it, a similar color to it last week.
Yeah, a shirt, but I love pink on me. It's great, that and sometimes certain blues can just pick up my eyes, but pink is good with my skin color.
Yeah,
I'm noticing a lot because I've been wearing a lot of black and white and kind of winter colors. I'm like, no, it's spring.
yeah.
Try to make it happen. Yeah, cool.
Force the bulbs. Break the acorn.
There you go.
Okay, speaking of that, it's not exactly bulbs, but it's called Planting Seeds, and I opened to this, and this is one of my favorite stories. It's just a short, less than a page. It's yeah.
Great.
So it's called Planting Seeds. Think for a moment of a tomato plant. A healthy plant can have over 100 tomatoes on it. In order to get this tomato plant with all these tomatoes on it, we need to start with a small dried seed. The seed doesn't look like a tomato plant. It sure doesn't taste like a tomato plant. If you didn't know for sure, you would not even believe it could be a tomato plant. However, let's say you plant this seed in fertile soil and you water it and let the sun shine on it. When that little first tiny shoot comes up, you don't stomp on it and say, "That's not a tomato plant." Rather, you look at it and say, "Oh boy, here it comes." And you watch it grow with delight. In time, if you continue to water it and give it lots of sunshine and pull away any weeds, you might have a tomato plant with more than 100 luscious tomatoes. It all began with that one tiny seed. It is the same with creating a new experience for yourself. The soil you plant in is your subconscious mind. The seed is the new affirmation. The whole new experience is in this tiny seed. You water it with affirmations. You let the sunshine of positive thoughts beam on it. You weed the garden by pulling out the negative thoughts that come up. And when you first see the tiniest little evidence, you don't stomp on it and say, "That's not enough." Instead, you look at this first breakthrough and exclaim with glee, "Oh boy, here it comes. It's working." Then you watch it grow and become your desire in manifestation.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Perfect.
Yep, I've shared that so many times and remembered that so many times. When the first little shoot comes up, you don't stomp on it and say, "That's not a tomato plant."
That's my favorite part.
I
I also really love from earlier today when I think it was a quote about, an acorn doesn't aspire to be an acorn. It aspires to be something much greater.
Yeah. The other metaphor that the fellow uses in that Acorn to the Oak book is if a caterpillar just got to be a better and better caterpillar forever, it would never be a butterfly.
Wow.
All right, I've got to go because I got a 2:30.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you.
This has been great. Take care, y'all.
Thanks a lot.
Much.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.